Hey everyone, Gill Gross here, and it is time for a preview of the 2021 Year-End Championship semifinals. Matchups are Djokovic versus Alexander Zverev and Daniil Medvedev versus Casper Ruud. Let's begin with Djokovic and Zverev, a matchup that we saw in Australia, we saw at the Olympics, we saw at the US Open, and now we're seeing here. And usually it's in the semifinal, huh? And then sometimes it's for a chance to face Medvedev, and that's yet to be seen. But we keep seeing the same thing in these hardcourt events, don't we? Head-to-head overall between Djokovic and Zverev, 7-3 in favor of Novak. Now, Djokovic has won 5 of his last 6 here, as Zverev got off to a great start in the head-to-head, winning 2 out of the first 3. Now, if you look at Zverev's 3 wins, I do think it's also notable that all of them have come deep in big best-of-3 tournaments. Rome final in 2017, Tour final in 2018, and the Olympics, technically 2020, but really the year was 2021. Djokovic is here due to his 3-0 sweep of the group stage. He beat Casper Ruud, he beat Andrei Rublev, and he beat Cam Norrie. Nobody at the level of Zverev, but he destroyed everyone. Yet to drop a set, clean, swift, dynamic. That's all I have to say about that. Zverev got a retirement from Berrettini in his first group stage match, then lost to Medvedev in the third set tiebreak, and then beat Hubert Hurkacz, a listless and weirdly nothing performance from Hubie, where I really think something was seriously wrong with him. Zverev played well against Medvedev in a loss, but hasn't really beaten a healthy player here. Overall, I don't read too much into anything that's happened in the group stage for Zverev either. With that, let's get into the keys to this match. And I've said this before, but this is a strange one for me when it comes to Djokovic Zverev, because I have yet to find a key tactical dynamic that consistently shows up in this matchup. That's very rare for me, and it has to do with just how well-rounded both of these players are. Neither player has a clear tactical advantage in any pattern of play. Forehand to forehand, backhand to backhand, serve-return dynamic, movement. It's really tough to pinpoint areas where one of these players can take advantage of the other. It's a testament to how well-rounded they are. And in the case of Zverev, where he does have weaknesses, they aren't really weaknesses that can be unlocked tactically. For example, double faults. Djokovic can't make Zverev double fault. That's up to Zverev. So this is often, again, a matchup that is very difficult to pin down tactically because of the well-roundedness of both players. It's really extreme. The fact is, these matches are usually very mental. Very mental. So why is Novak ahead 7-3 in the head-to-head? For the most part, it's because Djokovic thrives against Zverev when the pressure mounts. Novak has the equivalent of DRS mode. Formula One DRS, drag reduction system. If you're unfamiliar with it, it's a setting that Formula One racers put on their car. I'm not going to explain how it works, but it makes your car faster and it's easier to overtake the driver in front of you. But you can't use it all the time. Djokovic has that. Djokovic senses a big spot in a tennis match, a big moment, and he has a DRS mode where, for him, in a big spot, it's a commitment to high percentage tennis. He never misses. He has full intensity in his movement. It makes his defense at an insanely high level. Generally, the return comes back more often when he brings this intensity up. And the question is, how does Zverev handle that? When Djokovic goes into lockdown mode, when Djokovic goes into build a wall mode, which he does against Zverev in the big spots, how does Alex handle that? In the past, not always well. Because in order for Zverev to really get through that situation, he needs to do one of two things. Either he needs to hit through Djokovic, he needs to be the aggressor and find a way through those defenses. And for that, he needs his confidence. He needs to go down the line. He needs to flatten out. He needs to come forward. These are things that Zverev is a lot of the time tentative to do in the big spots. Or he can try to be the last guy to miss, try to outlast. It doesn't usually work. Djokovic normally comes away, as he did in the key rallies at the U.S. Open, early in the fifth set, late in the third set. I might be a little bit fuzzy on that. Actually, don't take my word on that. But usually it's Zverev faltering in these moments. And Djokovic likes to go to Zverev's backhand until he's tired, then go to the forehand to get the miss. That's generally the play for Novak. However, if it's a free swinging Zverev, if he is attacking short balls and coming in behind it, if he's flattening out his shots and hitting down the line under pressure, like he did at the Olympics with his forehand down the line, best I've ever really seen him hit it, that's a pretty dangerous thing for Djokovic. We've seen that. And this is a good spot for Zverev to let loose. If I were previewing this match and this was the Australian Open semifinals, I would have a lot more doubts about Zverev's ability to pull that off. But this is kind of the spot that Zverev's able to do this in. He's won this tournament before. He has that in his memory bank. This is best of three. It's not the final. He's the underdog. All of these things culminate in a pretty good spot for Zverev. So maybe he does come out free swinging. Maybe he is a powerful baseline player under pressure. If that's the case, I still feel like, now he can beat Djokovic like that, I still feel like Novak has certain things to disrupt Zverev if things go wrong. He's got some tricks up his sleeve and some problem-solving ability. The drop shot is something that he's used in this matchup in big spots. It disrupts. The backhand slice, if Zverev is really getting the better of the backhand to backhand, Djokovic can go to the slice. He did that well at the U.S. Open. That disrupts. Finally, the serve and volley and the net play in general disrupts. And that was effective in New York in that match. The serve and volley was effective. The funny thing is, when Djokovic played Medvedev in the final, Novak was terrible at net. Terrible percentage. I think 60 in the 60s, which is not good for a net points won at the net percentage. But serve and volley was actually quite effective, even in the final. So he takes that little sliver of what he did in the final and brings it to that match in Paris, just increases the frequency of it, and it works. Might he do the same thing against Zverev? I'm not anticipating it. I would guess no, but I'm just saying it was effective at the U.S. Open. He just didn't use it much. So if he does the same thing in Paris, take a tactic that was effective, but he used sparingly and use it a lot and see what happens. I don't know. But the point is, Djokovic has more of that penchant to find some alternatives if things are going wrong from the baseline. Serve return dynamic, always a mystery. I don't know which way that'll go, but obviously the percentages will be important. Zverev's second serve will be important. It's looked pretty good at this event. I think it's usually better indoors. But all in all, I still maintain that Djokovic has that edge when the nerves come into play in this matchup, and I'm picking Djokovic in 3. Medvedev and Ruud. Career head-to-head, 2-0, Daniil Medvedev. Medvedev got to this point with wins over Hubert Hurkacz, Alexander Zverev, and Jannik Sinner. So like Djokovic, he is 3-0. But every match in Medvedev's case has gone 3 sets, and he hasn't avoided tiebreaks as well as he usually does. He's played 5 tiebreaks in these 3 matches. It would be easy to look at these score lines, especially with the last two matches going into third set tiebreaks and to bring up the fatigue factor with Medvedev. He's going to be tired. He's played long matches. I just don't think so. He's had a day of rest, and let's be real about the Sinner match. The Sinner match wasn't physical. You can look at the scoreline and think it was physical, but it just wasn't. So I'm not really concerned about that, and that's what I have to say about Medvedev's stint in the round-robin stage. For Casper Ruud, 2-set loss to Novak Djokovic, and then 2 come-from-behind wins against Cam Norrie and Andrei Rublev. The match this morning against Rublev was a winner-go-home situation. Ruud lost the first set badly, just like he did against Norrie, and once again showed incredible poise and professionalism to come back in that match. He is truly, in a lot of ways, the consummate professional when it comes to temperament on the court. Still has some nerve management issues, but temperament-wise is unbelievable mentally. Ruud, I will say, I mean, excellent that he's in this spot. First time playing this event, lightning quick surface. Had a below 500 career record on hard courts coming into 2021. Massive accomplishment just being in this match by Casper Ruud. Now let's get into the keys. The serve return dynamic is a major concern for Casper Ruud, particularly when it comes to the first serve. Ruud has really struggled against the bigger first serves that he's faced at this event. Novak Djokovic won 90% of his first serve points against Casper. Andrei Rublev won 84% of his first serve points against Casper and hit 53% serves unreturned. On the flip side, Ruud's first serve, it isn't working that well. He won just 63% of first serve points against Djokovic, 20% unreturned, and 65% against Andrei Rublev. These are ugly numbers considering he's about to face who is the most dominant first serve return player in the world in Daniil Medvedev. Ruud beat Rublev because the second serve dynamics were in his favor. But Medvedev is not going to be so vulnerable on his second serve. Casper really needs to step it up on first serve, both from a serve and a return perspective on a court this quick. I will say, in favor of Ruud, he has some promising dynamics in neutral against Daniil Medvedev in the rallies. Medvedev's court position, which is deep, and his pace of ball, which is not very fast oftentimes, gives Ruud time. That's key for Casper. When Ruud has time, he's able to load up his power. And he has more time to use his footwork to run around his backhand and hit more forehands. That's incredibly important. And it's also true on his +1 ball. Andrei Rublev did a great job of making Ruud hit first ball backhands. Andrei returns from the baseline. If Daniil is going to return from 10 feet behind the baseline, more time that ball's traveling in the air and more time for Ruud to find forehands. That's a key. Medvedev's tendency to trade through the middle of the court, low pace down the middle, that ball's hard to attack. Hard to attack because you have to generate your own pace. Hard to attack because you have to generate your own angles. Hard to attack because Medvedev's so speedy. Casper Ruud is one of the few players who has the racket head acceleration to create enough pace to probably do some damage off of that trade, to do some damage off of Medvedev's neutral ball. This is why Nadal and team have winning records against Medvedev, because their forehands are big enough to penetrate Medvedev's defensives from neutral. And I will reiterate, there are very few players that is true about. Now, Medvedev's defense is still going to force Ruud to hit extra balls. There's no doubt about that. But if Ruud has great control of his forehand and he can string together quality ones without missing, he's going to have some success dictating baseline rallies. I'm fascinated to see, will Medvedev adjust? Will he move up inside the court and try to strip Ruud of time? Will he try to hit the ball harder? He has the ability to do it. He has the ability to inject pace into ground strokes. Is he going to make that adjustment? I'm not sure. We've seen him do it this week, though. He's experimented a little bit with his return position this week. He has moved up closer to the baseline, and I'm fascinated to see what Medvedev does in this matchup. I do think if he goes to his default, Ruud is going to have some success in baseline rallies. Ultimately, though, I don't think he's going to be able to return Medvedev's serve at a high enough rate to give himself a chance. If Ruud has a great forehand day and keeps the errors down, I'd pick Medvedev in a close win. If there are errors, I'd pick Medvedev in a blowout. So since I'm confident in the result, Medvedev in 2 sets is the pick. Hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you next time.